All right. Let's go ahead and get started. There is a couple of things I definitely want to discuss. And Trisha's here for Bob. So Bob is also out on vacation and he is not connecting, which was good for him. So let's just start in reviewing the meeting notes. Everybody get a chance to take a look at the updated copy that Melinda sent out with the calendar invite.
Yes, looks good.
Good to me. Okay, no updates or changes. Mike, are you good with the minutes from last week or last month, excuse me?
Yes, they're good. Thank you.
Great. All right, then Melinda, I'd say the minutes have been approved. All right, moving on to the enterprise software update. For those, we have gone through now all of the demos and we've got a meeting scheduled. Melinda, we set it up for next Tuesday, correct?
Correct, at 10 a.m.
Yes. To do a debrief on each of the three vendors and come up with a plan, a recommendation and a plan going forward. And Trisha, you're going to be able to attend that, correct?
Correct.
Good. I think it's just going to be us. Are you having anybody from your team attend?
Potentially Judy Wagner is the only one I would dial in just because she has more of a knowledge of the RBA tax software.
Okay. Okay, good. So that's the latest on that. I decided I talked to Bob and Trisha and we felt it would be better to, instead of doing a debrief and a plan tonight, that it'd be better to just spend more time. That way we could get some additional input before we all get together. So any questions about that? Nope. Okay. All right, moving on. We are just quickly going through this. It's great. So, and Craig, your article is going into the September 3rd. I think it's the 3rd, is it not? Yeah, 1, 2, 3. Yes, this should go into Friday's McCandless and me. So thank you. And then you're working on the one for the month of October, correct?
Correct. I'm planning to do that this weekend. I should have it for you Sunday or Monday.
Awesome. That'd be great. Next this is the one that I did want to spend a little bit of time on. We've had a lot of conversations about the website and recommendations. Bob saw another platform. We've got this thing here together, but I personally think that one of the things we could be doing as an organization is put together put together an approach for the town on how to best kind of pull all these discussions together and what steps we should be taking. I'm going to admit, I have never done a website update. I've always been a user on the other side of it. So I am not the one to really advise and help them pull together a plan on how to approach it. I think, Craig, we've got a lot of input from your perspective. From what you've done. We had the great idea of doing a McCandless and me. We have the suggestion of the various towns that we've seen. And Mike, I'm not sure if you had a chance to look at any other websites of any other organizations that you thought were pretty cool. We've got the fact we can combine it. We have a lot of things going on. And this is kind of the discussion part of what I wanted to get through tonight is, as I was driving up here, spending many hours in the car, I got to thinking that the best way is, I think that what we can do is help advise Bob and Trisha and everybody on how do we take all this stuff and give them a plan to move forward with. What do you all think? This is the interactive part. Any thoughts around that?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions about how they actually administer the website. How often do they engage Civic Plus for help? How often, what features do they like about it? What do they want to do more beyond that? Because there were so many similar platforms out there, like the one Bob sent out last week. Then there are other content management systems like Joomla and Drupal, WordPress, and they all have very similar feature sets with vastly different prices. So I'd like to know what they use it, how they use it, what do they reach out for support for? And I mean, things along those lines.
I
Because
can tell you, one of the biggest things that we're looking forward to is having more of an online payment platform. We want to make sure that we can schedule things like recreation facilities and pay for them at the time of reservation. Something that's a little more user-friendly. To say how often John contacts Civic Plus, I don't know that I can answer that without asking him specifically. I know we don't have the most advanced version of Civics Plus just because I've used Civics Plus in my past life with a web developer who was also contracted, and it was a much more integrated website. So I think it's a great opportunity for us to be a community board as well as a resource for town historical information and possible engagement with citizens. Because we currently have the McCandless and Me, which is separate from
Right.
the website at Civics Plus. So does that help give you some management or
Yeah, I
input?
think it does. So it's been a while since I've done a website. I need to go look at the current feature sets of all the different content management systems out there. Is most websites now on the internet are actually powered by WordPress. So there is a vast array of plugins, many of which are free, that can do almost anything you see on any website. So just from my experience, I'd be leaning more towards, if we're not constantly going out and asking for support from Civic Plus, or we're not doing municipality specific items, because we're still going to have the enterprise software on the other end of this, probably WordPress we should at least look into it. It has really good support for almost anything you want to do. And it's cheap.
And I think that's great, cheap and support. And, if we can wrap some things around, let's be smart about a decision. So I think and Michael, I know you had some comments about this as well, but here's my suggestion. We're not going to solve this necessarily tonight. But I'd like to have, I would love to, and I can help facilitate, but I honestly, guys, don't know the questions to ask. So I would love a volunteer to kind of take this. I mean, we're not going to be doing anything official, right, until the beginning of next year. So we have a little bit of time, but if I'm struggling with, okay, we have all this, and where do we go next, right? I'm sure Bob and Melinda and Trisha and folks are too, so I just think it's something that we can really help advise the town as, the team, where do we go? And it's just, for this one, it's just not me.
Can I ask a question and make a comment?
Absolutely.
No, I think I said at the last meeting, I will say it again, I agree, I endorse the support for WordPress. I think that's a good way to go. I think you're still going to need somebody with a little bit of knowledge to know how to keep the website up to date, so it's not going to happen automatically. And that leads me to my question. I can't remember if we talked about this before, but is there a list, like the payment portal is a really good feature that we can look for. Is there a list of other kinds of things, specifically features that we could have in hand when we want to match feature sets to available features and feature expectations to available features? Or is that something that we need to assemble?
We've talked about a lot of things, but Michael, that kind of gets to my point of a plan. And this is kind of what in my my little mind thinking, all right, we've had all these discussions, we've got all this input. We need now, in order to put together a recommendation or help you, decide, you've got some decision criteria to make. These are the things that we need to, let's document the features and functions. How much time what kind of features and what kinds of things do we want on this website? How much time, who's going to maintain the website? Is this something that the town is, that John's going to do? We've got others do. We've talked about interns or bringing somebody on site. Are we going to be looking for a vendor to do it? See, that's kind of the thing I'm struggling with, and I don't know necessarily the right questions all to ask. So that's why I'm looking for somebody who maybe and one of us has done more of this than I have. They could take the lead on and just frame out, all right, this is A, B, C, and D. You need to make decision points at B and C, not to get down to the nitty gritties, but it just, what are the high level next steps? Does that make sense? Or am I kind of talking around in a circle?
I think it makes sense to me, but I think one of the things would be to develop that list of desirable features. I think that would be one step in that process, and maybe an early step, so that we could build around that.
Yeah, I think it's going to be the first step for sure. I can put together a list of features we already know about, send it to the group, Bob and John, see if we're missing anything else. And I think that's going to be our first step.
Okay.
And I mean, I'm willing to get into the kind of nuts and bolts of it too, because I have no objections to WordPress. I have about 6 WordPress sites that I built, maintain. My fear is always with these, not so much when it starts, but when we're 6 months or 12 months down the road. And for example, if it's, we're just going to use John and we're going to say, what if John's doing it for 12 months and he leaves, he has something happen to him, he has anything, can they continue to maintain the site as they've been maintaining it? Or, is there a problem? So that's always my concern, where doing it yourself. And we tend to think it's easy, but people that don't really do it day in and day out sometimes get stuck. So I think that's something we have to be careful and recognize as we're going through it.
Joe, I completely agree. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Mike.
I agree too. I just wanted to say nothing frustrates a visitor to a website more than to see out-of-date information. To go there for something for Independence Day and they see Christmas announcements still posted there, they'll never come back then. Right.
And I think we have, I think we've talked about some of the payments, reservations, getting the ordinances on there in a searchable manner. I'm sure there's other things that, just off the top of my head, that's kind of the easy stuff. And I'm sure some of those have WordPress plugins, and I'm sure the payments could tie back directly to the enterprise software and or even the bank. The bank should be able to build a portal on their webpage, and then you can link it through and everything like that. So I think there are a lot of choices, and of course, we've looked at some of the platforms. The risk with any of the government platforms seems to be that Civic Plus is going to inevitably buy them at some point. So, maybe there is one, that the other one that Bob sent, maybe that looks like maybe that's one that would continue to exist on its own if we decided we wanted to get away from Civic Plus.
So maybe I can, because I'm more than happy to be the consolidator of information. If I could ask, and I haven't been taking on, been listening, and I know Melinda's doing a great job of taking notes, but if you all could even send your notes, send your thoughts on this, Craig, if you can consolidate the list, for the functions we have. I know I've got it in here as well, what we've talked about. And Joe, your thoughts, pros and cons of some of the things and where the decision point should be, because I'm sure you've helped other clients through this kind of similar thing as well. Just that's and I'll pull it together, but and Mike, and your input obviously as well too. You guys have all done more of this than I have. And I think because then if we can outline for the town, all right, you've got a couple of different options. Here's all the list of the things we want it to do that's not there. It's here's the list. Is that the right list? Do we have other things that are there? How much time? The other estimate I'm hearing everybody say is the amount of time the town and time and talent the town is willing, it has to put into maintaining, not just setting it up, but ongoing maintenance. Is that an investment, or do we want to outsource this like we did initially with the consultant? Those kinds of things. I can try and pull it all together in a framework that then we've got something to work from. And oh, by the way, these are the platforms, WordPress, Civic Plus, and what we know and think about pros and cons of each. Would you guys be willing to and have some time over the next week or so that, and then I'd pull it together that we could kind of talk through a bit about it at the next meeting? Is that doable?
It's doable for me.
Absolutely. Yes,
too.
great.
Okay.
Thank you.
And the funny thing is that probably the other Civic Plus and some of these other ones are probably in reality WordPress sites that just layer their controls over it. And the other thing that's interesting to me is typically when I get into these, it's getting the content out of the client side of it that's the problem. I don't think we have a content problem with this one. I think we have an organization problem, meaning that the sitemap and how you find the information is kind of scattered all over the place.
Yeah, and Joe, would be great as you pull it together, so obviously since you've done this with others, what is your suggestion on how to best tackle it and approach it? Any words of wisdom that you've got as we frame this out so that there's kind of an ABC, just a follow on as to how we best approach it.
Yeah, I think we need to know the things that they want on it, and then we probably need to hash out some kind of sitemap.
Yeah.
Or at least some rough outline of what a sitemap would look like, an organization that kind of is a little bit easier to follow on both the computer and something that ends up mobile responsive, because it really isn't that mobile responsive right now.
Right. And the other input would be, Melinda, we can talk about with Bob when he gets back, and Tricia as well, kicking off this McCandless and Me project to try and get, to get some more input, from the community to come up with those lists of things. Because that, when we go before council, as far as official project, this is the big approach, and that we've got input from the citizens as well would be good. Another thing to think about is, what do we need to link in? Is there anything else from a first responder point of view that we want to do more than we're doing today with a town's website, from either police or fire or something? I don't know. That just kind of, our earlier talk about flooded roads, I thought about that. Do we need to get input from those two folks as well? So just another thought.
I'd love to get a feed. I don't remember if it's 6 or 7 spokes on the social media or communications wheel, that those things are springboarded off of the website, so that if you go to the website, you can see what the most recent post to Savvy Citizen is, or the most recent post, for John's Friday email, the town crier, what have you, online. Those would be, that springboard, so that everything's accessible from one portal.
Yeah, and actually, Tricia, what I'd love to be able to do would be get rid of Savvy Citizen and have it all look the same, Because I'm suspicious that there's other technology out there that, you know, and we spend what, $2,500 or so on Savvy Citizen that we should be able to repurpose on at this point in time. That's my thought.
Great.
All right. So I have the to-dos here. You all are gonna spend some time, thoughtful time, and send to me, and then I'm gonna go figure out how to put all this into you know, some sort of a document to help start framing it out for review at the next meeting. Any other comments or thoughts around the website? Okey doke. All right, next item on the agenda was just a follow-up. We had an initial call, our initial discussion last time as well about the voice over IP phone systems. Trisha, is there anything new from that you need, you know?
No,
Was-
we've
Go ahead.
not in the last month or so. We're, you know, pursuing, you know, we're progressing towards the budget. So, you know, if we're gonna go with something more or less expensive than what we saw last year with the IP phone, and I'm calling it that, I don't remember exactly what it was, but
Right.
then I would need to have some kind of updated estimate.
And Joe, I think you gave him some potential vendors.
I
didn't buy-
did,
Okay,
so I can help as that
Okay.
goes along.
okay. All right, but that's not high on the priority list right now, Trisha, is that correct? Is that what I'm hearing you say?
I mean, we'd like to go into something next year,
Okay,
but there's no money in the budget for it this year.
right, so it's a next year thing.
Mhm.
Okay, well, what would be your timeline? Again, I'm just trying to see as to where we can help, what you might want. I mean, you know, Joe knows some vendors, there's not that many of them.
What
Uh,
was Bob's last directive?
We would need a estimate to place into the budget.
Yeah, so we're in the same spot then. Yeah, I mean, we're looking, we would potentially put it in the 2022 budget, and then any point throughout the year, some, you know, hopefully not something that severely overlaps with the ERP system implementation, just because that's a lot of new to learn.
Right,
But beyond that, I don't have a goal other than the current system, because the current system is a pay as you go. So
Right.
as we need maintenance on it, we incur it.
okay. All right, so we've got some time, that's on that. And so Joe, you'll just get the vendors. And then that should be, I mean, I think aren't they fairly simple that if you get the vendors' names, you can reach out to them for quotes, right?
Yeah, and I mean, my guess would be that they're not gonna need any crazy features, so even across all the vendors, the pricing is all in the same ballpark.
Yeah, you guys don't need anything special.
We're
Okay.
looking for- Yeah,
Yeah, you don't need any new fun bells and whistles, right? Just a phone system that works, that might be give you a little bit better than you have today and less expensive.
yeah, we'd like something that has caller ID and something that we can forward calls to home, or, you know, when we're working
Yeah.
from, if we go back to a COVID situation.
And that's all standard stuff these days.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, that's what we had on the agenda for tonight. Anybody else have any other topics? Any other business topics out there? Angela?
Marcy. Thank you, Marcy. I just wanted to say it's been so nice to work with all of you. This is my last meeting with you as I'm resigning at the end of the month. I tell people when they interview, this is my favorite committee assignment. You guys don't mess around, you get down to business and get things done. And I think there's a lot of talent on this committee. It's been a real pleasure working with all of you.
Well, we will miss you, Angela. thank you so much for your help and support while we've had the opportunity to work with you.
Yeah, definitely.
I appreciate that, but I'm not sure I contribute a whole lot of anything to this committee. You guys really have it all figured out. Just listen in amazement.
No, we don't have it all figured out. We work through it. But we don't have it all figured out. We get there. All right, anything else then? Going once, going twice? Well, then before I call for an official adjournment, just a quick reminder that we are getting together. And if you can attend the meeting on next Tuesday, that would be great, because, and I think it's gonna take us a while. So, but I think that would be a really good productive session. The more of us that can attend that, the better, as we help Trisha and Bob figure out, what the next step should be going forward. I don't think any one of them completely hit it out of the park, and some of it is you get what you pay for. And I know, we want to help them make the smart decisions for the town. And I think we're gonna have to have some tough puts and takes is my guess, but anyway, we won't get into that tonight. All right, do I hear a motion then to adjourn?
Moved.
Move.
And move in a second. So I would say all in favor, aye.
Aye.
All right, guys. Thanks for everyone. I think this is a good discussion tonight. Look forward to getting your stuff. Have a wonderful Labor Day weekend. Stay dry, and I'll see you all next week at that meeting. And then in a month for this meeting.
Sounds good. Have a
All
good
right.
one.
Good night,
Thank
everyone.
See you guys.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.